You're not just stopping behavior. You're teaching your child what to do with their feelings when you're not there. And most of that happens in the exact sentences you say without thinking. Imagine a rushed morning. You're overwhelmed, and your child is crying behind you because they can't find their favorite toy. Without looking back, you just say, "Stop crying." Deep down, you know that's not the best response, but you just don't have the time or energy to handle their big emotions right now. But that phrase doesn't just stop the noise. It's teaching your child something about their own feelings. You're about to see how these tiny sentences are being recorded, eventually becoming their internal voice. It doesn't happen just once. It repeats every day, in the moments you notice the least. You didn't plan to say it. You just needed the noise to stop. Right now. You're overwhelmed. Your child is crying in the back, and you throw out a "stop crying" without even looking. You're saying it to survive the moment, not to teach a lesson. But with every repetition, the child's brain records an unsafe signal. They learn to shut down their emotions instead of understanding them. Again, you're not ending the moment, you're shaping a pattern. And your child doesn't hear why you said it. You might say it softly, but you're still dismissing their feelings. You meant it with love, but your child doesn't hear intention. Their brain prioritizes repetition, creating a mental shortcut for what feels safe and what doesn't. They can't tell the difference between your busy schedule and your rejection. Only repetition. What repeats becomes what feels true. And repetition doesn't stay on the surface. It doesn't stay outside. It moves in. When you repeat the same reaction every day, your language becomes their internal voice and shapes their self-concept. Your child grows up and starts speaking to themselves exactly how you spoke to them. Quietly. You are building the voice they will use on themselves. And you don't notice when it starts. It feels normal. That's why you don't question it. Whether it's a rushed morning, mealtime, or the playground, you keep repeating the same automatic response. This reinforces a neural pathway that becomes their default setting. Is this just how parenting goes? Daily. What feels normal is often what shapes them most. But this didn't start with you. You didn't learn this. You absorbed it. You're repeating exactly how the adults in your past once spoke to you. These inherited patterns are passed down unconsciously, becoming an automatic reaction across generations. Passed down. You're not failing. You're repeating. But repetition still teaches something. It sounds small. It isn't. A fleeting phrase said in exhaustion can become the encoding for your child's nervous system. These repetitions teach them the wrong lessons about self-worth and emotional safety. Small phrases create long-term identity, not small. Let's look at what that actually teaches. You're trying to calm the moment, but your child is learning something else. Their brain encodes emotion as a threat to connection. Are you unknowingly teaching them that feelings are dangerous? This suppression makes it impossible for them to identify their own emotions later in life. They shut down. You're not calming them. You're teaching them to hide. And it doesn't stop with emotions. You're ending the conversation. They're ending their questions. In those exhausted moments when the whys never stop, you cut them off because you just don't have the energy to explain. But when control replaces understanding, you're blocking their intrinsic curiosity. They learn that understanding doesn't matter as much as compliance. They stop asking, and eventually, they stop thinking for themselves. Silence. Control replaces understanding. And the same thing happens with their body. You're trying to take care of them. You're teaching them to ignore themselves. When your child says they're full and you push for one more bite, you are overriding their interoception with an external rule. This disconnects them from their natural hunger signals, planting the seeds for future eating struggles. You're replacing their internal signals with your control. They stop listening. You're replacing their signals with your control. And it shows up in how they relate to others, too. You're managing the situation. They're learning about their place in it. At the playground, you force them to share because you don't want to look like a bad parent. This social pressure overrides their self-boundary encoding, teaching them that their needs matter less than others' approval. It creates a pattern of people-pleasing, making it harder for them to say no later in life. They give in. You're not teaching kindness, you're removing choice. And eventually, all of this becomes one thing. One day, you won't be in the room. All those repeated phrases have moved inside, becoming the internal voice that regulates their worth and their safety. How they treat themselves, how they handle emotions, and how they relate to others. It's all being wired right now. Your child will grow up to speak to themselves exactly the way you speak to them today. They'll still hear you. That voice won't be yours anymore. It will be theirs. Ultimately, you're not just responding to behavior. You're teaching your child how to treat their own feelings for the rest of their life. Some parents choose to shut down behavior for a quick fix, while others understand how a child's brain learns from every single reaction. Remember, the way you respond becomes the way they relate to themselves. What's one sentence you said this week that you'd change now? Let me know in the comments. If this made you notice something you didn't before, stay. Your child won't remember every moment, but they will remember how it felt to be heard.